You won't always feel motivated, but that's never been the requirement for greatness. Consistency is. When you commit to showing up every single day, regardless of how you feel, you separate yourself from the majority. Most people start strong and fizzle out. They sprint for 5 days and quit on the 6th. But those who force themselves to keep going through boredom, through doubt, through tired mornings and silent nights, become unshakable. Because discipline is not about energy, it's about decision. You don't wake up every day inspired, you wake up every day with a choice. And when you choose to take one more step, one more rep, one more page, one more honest hour of effort, you start to change your future before anyone else even notices. No one sees your consistency in the beginning. There are no applause breaks for daily effort. But silently, your future is bending in your favor. The small decisions you make on the days you don't feel like it, those are the bricks of your new life. And the thing is, consistency doesn't just build results, it builds identity. You stop being someone who tries and start becoming someone who simply does. The world begins to recognize the pattern in you, but more importantly, you begin to trust yourself. And that trust, that's the fuel, the quiet power that keeps you grounded when everything else tries to shake you loose. Consistency reveals who you truly are beneath the noise. When you wake up early, not because you have to, but because it's who you are now, everything shifts. When you stop negotiating with laziness and start honoring your commitments, especially the ones you made to yourself, you rise. You feel the change internally long before it ever shows up externally. You're rewiring your standards, and with every repeated effort, you're telling your brain, this is how we operate now. Most people think they lack motivation. What they really lack is the patience to let their small efforts compound. Consistency doesn't give you instant transformation. It gives you momentum. It stacks quiet wins in the background until one day you wake up and nothing looks the same. Your thoughts sharpen, your body adapts, your focus strengthens. You begin to attract what once felt out of reach. Why? Because you stayed the course. And here's what's powerful about consistency. It turns the impossible into inevitable. The goal isn't reached in a single breakthrough moment. It's reached in 1,000 moments where you chose progress over comfort. The mornings you didn't hit snooze, the workouts you pushed through tired, the pages you read when no one cared. It all adds up. It all compounds. And when it does, it looks like magic, but you'll know it was always math. You must learn to become a person who doesn't rely on mood to take action. If your emotions control your effort, you'll always live in cycles, starting, stopping, starting again, doubting yourself. But if you anchor your actions in values instead of feelings, your path becomes clear. Values like growth, grit, purpose, and responsibility. You don't wait to feel inspired to write the book. You write because you're a writer. You don't wait to feel energetic to train. You train because you said you would. Consistency is the contract you sign with your future. Every time you uphold it, the gap between you and the life you want gets smaller. And soon, you start seeing the world differently. You no longer crave the easy path because you've tasted the satisfaction of earned progress. You start protecting your habits like sacred time. You start viewing discipline not as restriction, but as freedom. And the more consistent you become, the less you tolerate inconsistency in your environment. You notice who's serious and who's pretending. You create boundaries. You stop explaining your process to people who never stayed committed to theirs. There's a quiet transformation that happens when you keep promises to yourself. You may not see it immediately, but it shows up in your posture, your mindset, your ability to handle pressure. The voice in your head starts to change. From doubt to confidence, from criticism to clarity. You start becoming the version of yourself you used to admire from a distance. Not because you found a shortcut, but because you stopped quitting. You stuck with it long enough for the process to shape you. And consistency is not about perfection. It's about progress. You'll miss days, you'll fall short, but the difference is you'll return. You'll show up again and again and again, and that's where your power multiplies. Every time you restart, your comeback is stronger. Every time you fight through the urge to stop, you reclaim your control, because the most dangerous version of you is the one who refuses to stay down, the one who builds even while doubting, the one who shows up even when it's hard, the one who has trained themselves to keep going no matter what. Every day you show up becomes proof that you've changed. You start recognizing that consistency isn't a task anymore. It's your identity. You're no longer chasing discipline. You've become it, and the world begins to adjust. Opportunities appear. People respect your focus. Challenges shrink because your capacity has grown, not overnight, but through hundreds of invisible decisions stacked in your favor. You didn't get lucky. You got consistent. And that consistency gave you control over time. You no longer feel behind because you're aligned. You're no longer comparing because you're committed. You're not chasing motivation. You've built momentum. And it's that momentum that makes hard things feel easier and impossible things feel reachable. You've created systems around your values. You've prioritized growth over gratification. You've elevated your life not through grand gestures, but through repeated effort. And the most incredible part, you now know that if you can do this, you can do anything. Consistency also changes your relationship with time. You stop rushing outcomes. You begin to understand that everything meaningful takes longer than you expected, and that's okay. Because now you trust the process. You're not watching the clock anymore. You're working the plan. You're planting seeds without obsessing over when they'll bloom. You're watering them with daily effort, with focused energy, with quiet dedication. And those seeds, they start to grow. Slowly at first, then all at once. And when the harvest comes, no one will remember how long it took. They'll only see what you became in the waiting. You'll be known not for what you said you would do, but for what you did every day. And that consistency will become your reputation. People will say, they never stopped. They never made excuses. They just kept showing up. And those words will echo louder than any motivation speech because they'll be true. The beauty of consistency is that it gives you a foundation to build anything. Once you master the habit of showing up, you can apply it to every area of life. Want a stronger body? Be consistent with your training. Want a better relationship? Be consistent with your presence. Want to grow your business? Be consistent with your execution. It's all connected. And the ones who win aren't the ones who do everything perfectly. They're the ones who never stop doing the important things, even when they were tired, even when they were uncertain, even when no one else believed. That's where legacy begins, not in moments of greatness, but in seasons of discipline. And that discipline starts with a decision, not a feeling, not a vibe, a choice to honor your potential with action, a choice to stop waiting for the right moment and start making every moment right. Because once you do that, life starts to move in your favor. The chaos quiets, the path appears, things fall into place, not because they're easier, but because you're stronger. You can't control everything, but you can control your consistency. And when life gets hard, that's your anchor. When everything else is uncertain, the fact that you still showed up, that's your power. It's easy to show up when things are going well. It's powerful to show up when they're not. When you can still hold yourself to a standard in the face of doubt, fear, or delay, you prove to yourself that you've grown. That you're not here for hype, you're here for mastery. And that kind of energy moves mountains. It creates shifts in your environment. It opens doors where there were only walls. Because the universe doesn't respond to wishful thinking, it responds to aligned action. It responds to consistency. So if you want everything to fall into place, force yourself to keep going, even when it doesn't make sense yet. And here's what's wild. When you're consistent long enough, you forget how to quit. It's no longer an option. You've created a standard so high that anything less feels unnatural. You wake up with clarity. You operate with intention. You protect your peace and prioritize your priorities. You stop explaining your dreams to people who never show up for theirs. You stop looking for approval because you've built your own. You know who you are now, and you act like it. You live in alignment, and that alignment attracts everything you used to chase. Because energy flows to the grounded, results flow to the focused, and blessings fall into the hands of those who built in silence. You won't get there overnight, but you will get there if you refuse to stop. And when you do, you'll realize it wasn't luck, it wasn't talent, it wasn't timing, it was consistency. You just kept showing up when most people chose comfort. You kept grinding when most people gave excuses. You kept walking when most people sat down. And that effort, that pressure you applied over time, reshaped your future. You'll look back at the moments you almost quit and feel proud that you didn't. You'll remember the early mornings, the long nights, the sacrifices, not with regret, but with gratitude, because they built you. They proved to you that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. Now the question is, what else can you build? If this is who you are when you stay consistent, imagine what's possible in one more year. Imagine who you'll become if you keep showing up every single day. That's the magic, that's the challenge, and that's the reward. It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than the version of you that quit too early. It's about proving to yourself that you are trustworthy, that you are resilient, that you don't need to wait for motivation. You've built something stronger. You've built discipline. You've built identity. You've built momentum. And now everything starts to align, not because life got easier, but because you got better. So here's the truth. Force yourself to be consistent, not once, not for a week, but until it becomes your nature, until your effort no longer depends on mood, until your results no longer surprise you, until success is not a question, it's the byproduct of who you've become. Do it even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because those are the days that count. That's when the future is rewritten. That's when the shift happens. You can change your life, not by waiting, not by talking, but by doing. Daily, quietly, relentlessly. And one day everything will fall into place and you'll smile, because deep down you always knew it was never about luck. It was about consistency.